The loader's hands shake as he rams another 10-kilogram shell into the breech. Through the narrow vision slit, all he sees is smoke, dust, the flash of a distant muzzle. The 88mm cannon roars again. The whole hull lurches backward, track lengths screaming against frozen mud. Outside, another Sherman erupts. Flames lick through the hatches. The gunner doesn't celebrate. He's already traversing right, breathing, counting. The hydraulic whine of the turret cuts through the engine's growl. Inside this 56-ton steel box, the crew of 5 exists in a world measured in seconds and centimeters. Commander, gunner, loader, driver, radio operator. Each one knows this machine makes them gods. Until it doesn't. This is June 1944, Normandy. The Tiger I, officially designated Panzerkampfwagen V Tiger Ausf E, has spent 2 years building a legend so terrifying that Allied tank crews freeze at the sight of one. German commanders call it unstoppable. Crews whisper about its 100mm frontal armor, thick enough to shrug off every Allied gun at combat range. Its 88mm KWK-36 can punch through a Sherman's armor from 2,000 meters away. Most Allied tanks need to close to under 500 meters just to have a chance. The math is brutal. But here's the thing nobody talks about in the propaganda films. The driver just heard a grinding sound from the transmission. The interleaved road wheels, those overlapping discs that distribute the tank's massive weight, are clogged with mud from last night's rain. The Tiger burns through fuel like a bonfire. And somewhere in the hedgerows ahead, a different kind of Sherman is waiting. One with a gun long enough to change everything. Stay with this story, because the fall of an immortal tank teaches us more than its rise ever could.
Rewind to 1941. Operation Barbarossa. German panzer divisions are tearing through Soviet lines when they encounter something that wasn't supposed to exist. The T-34. Fast, sloped armor, a 76mm gun that tears through German Panzer IIIs like tissue paper. Then comes the KV-1, a 47-ton monster with armor that Germans can barely scratch. Panic spreads through Wehrmacht headquarters. The German military faces a strategic nightmare. Their entire armored doctrine is built on speed and tactical superiority, but Soviet tanks have leapfrogged German engineering in a single bound. By late 1941, WW2 6, the Weapons Testing Office, issues an emergency directive. Germany needs a heavy tank. Immediately. One that can penetrate 100 millimeters of armor at 1,000 meters and survive direct hits from Soviet guns. 2 companies receive contracts, Henschel and Porsche. Both rush prototypes. The deadline is insane, Hitler's birthday, April 20, 1942. Both designs arrive at Rastenburg for demonstration. Porsche's VK4501P uses a revolutionary battery-electric transmission. Innovative, complex, requires massive amounts of copper, a strategic material Germany doesn't have. Henschel's design is simpler, more conventional, heavier armor than anything previously imagined. Hitler chooses Henschel. Production orders come through, 200 tanks immediately, despite insufficient testing. The engineers know the suspension system, overlapping interleaved wheels, will be a maintenance nightmare. They know the 650 horsepower Maybach HL210 engine is underpowered for a 56-ton vehicle. They know the Krupp 888mm gun, derived from the famous anti-aircraft Flak 36, will require a massive turret and specialized ammunition. But war doesn't wait for perfection. First Tigers roll off the production line in August 1942 at Henschel's Kassel factory. The factory can build 25 per month, maybe. Each Tiger costs twice as much as a Panzer IV and takes twice as long to construct. The question isn't whether they'll be effective, it's whether Germany can build enough before reality catches up.
The engineering challenge is absurd. Mount an 88mm anti-aircraft gun, nearly 5 meters long, inside a rotating turret. Make the armor thick enough to stop everything. Keep the whole package mobile enough to actually fight. Krupp's engineers stare at the drawings. The gun's recoil is massive. The breech block alone weighs 320 kilograms and operates on a vertical falling wedge system. Semi-automatic ejection spits out the empty shell casing after each shot, the sound like a giant's cough, brass ringing against steel. The loader must feed each new round from the left because there's no room to load from above. The turret ring must be 1,850 millimeters in diameter, unprecedented. Inside Henschel's testing grounds, the first prototype grinds across frozen earth. The interleaved wheel design, 8 overlapping road wheels per side, distributes weight better than anything previously attempted. Ground pressure is actually lower than a Panzer IV, despite weighing twice as much. But the wheels are vulnerable. Mud freezes between them overnight. Replacing an inner wheel requires removing up to 9 others first. Chief Engineer Erwin Adders watches from the observation platform. He sees the tracks, 725 millimeters wide for production models, but transport requires swapping them for narrower 520 millimeter variants just to fit on railcars. Every deployment means hours of track changing. In the Russian winter, that means frostbite. The optics are extraordinary. The Light's TZF-9B sight, later upgraded to the monocular TZF-9C, gives the gunner precision that British Tust will confirm: 5 consecutive hits on a 16 by 18-inch target at 1,200 yards. The 88mm fires electrically primed ammunition at 800 meters per second. At 1,000 meters, it penetrates 112 millimeters of armor. No Allied tank in 1942 has anything close. The first production Tigers arrive at Fallingbostel in August. Crews spend weeks at the factory learning every bolt and gear. They know this machine's potential. What they don't know yet is how badly it can fail when rushed into combat.
August 29, 1942. Near Maga, southeast of Leningrad. Heavy rain turns the forest roads into a swamp. Major Richard Marker of Schwere Panzerabteilung 502 begs his superiors to reconsider. The terrain is wrong, the timing is wrong. He has only 4 Tigers, not enough to matter, not enough to protect each other. He's overruled. Hitler wants results. The Tigers detrain and lumber toward the front. Crews can hear the engine strain. The driver in Tiger 100 feels the transmission shudder as mud builds up between the interleaved wheels. The weight, all 56 tons, pushes down. The tracks dig in, deeper. The powertrain screams under load. Transmission failure. Tiger 100 stops dead. Tiger 121 makes it another kilometer before the engine overheats. The Maybach HL210 can't handle sustained stress at maximum load. The crew watches temperature gauges climb into the red zone. They shut down before the engine seizes. 3 of 4 Tigers disabled, not by enemy fire, by mud and mechanical failure. Soviet anti-tank crews, dug in and waiting, open fire on the remaining Tiger. Most rounds bounce off the 100mm armor. The tank is indeed nearly impervious from the front. But a well-aimed shot breaks a track. The crew abandons it. Soviet engineers recover Tiger 100 intact the next day, study every detail, begin preparing countermeasures. The invincible tank's debut is a humiliation. But 3 months later, Tunisia changes the narrative. December 1, 1942, Battle of Taborba. 3 Tigers from Schwere Panzerabteilung 501 advance through olive groves. The terrain is hard, dry, perfect. British troops watch in horror as 75mm rounds fired at 50 meters simply ricochet off Tiger armor. The Tigers destroy 55 Allied tanks in 4 days. Suddenly, the legend begins. Allied soldiers start calling it the Tiger Terror. They're not wrong to be afraid. The question is how long fear can substitute for numerical superiority.
By mid-1943, Allied intelligence analysts are piecing together a disturbing pattern. Tigers are appearing in independent heavy tank battalions, Schwere Panzerabteilungen, typically 45 vehicles strong. These aren't dispersed among divisions. They're concentrated for decisive shock action, deployed at critical points to break defensive lines or anchor retreats. The strategic calculus shifts overnight. On the Eastern Front, Tigers spearhead the assault at Kursk in July 1943. Tiger crews report kill ratios that seem impossible, 10-1, sometimes higher. Michael Wittmann, an SS Obersturmführer commanding a Tiger in Leibstandard SS Adolf Hitler, racks up 120 confirmed kills in 1943 alone. His secret? The Tiger's nearly invulnerable frontal armor lets him kill Soviet T-34s and KV-1s from beyond their effective range. They can't hurt him. He can destroy them at will. Soviet doctrine adapts. Orders circulate. Avoid frontal engagement. Target tracks and flanks. Use artillery and air power. Sacrifice infantry to get close-range shots at vision ports, commander's cupola, rear armor, just 80 millimeters thick. Meanwhile, production numbers tell a darker story. By July 1944, Germany has deployed a peak of 671 operational Tigers across all fronts. Impressive. Until you compare, the Soviets fielded 70,000 T-34s. Americans built 49,000 Shermans. The math is brutal in reverse now. Allied generals receive updated intelligence. Tigers are rare. Concentrate anti-tank guns. Use superior numbers. Flank and surround. The mystique begins to crack, not because Tigers aren't deadly, but because there simply aren't enough of them to be everywhere. In Normandy, British 21st Army Group faces a disproportionate concentration. Over 70% of German armor in the sector includes elite Waffen-SS units with Tigers and Panthers. Commonwealth forces take heavy losses, but they're learning. Every engagement reveals patterns, weak points, and in British workshops, engineers are mounting a very specific gun on Sherman tanks, a gun powerful enough to kill gods.
Villers-Bocage, June 13, 1944, 08:45 hours. SS Obersturmführer Michael Wittmann peers through his optics at a British column stretching along the road below. 25 Cromwell tanks, half-tracks, Bren carriers. They're stopped, crews dismounted, thinking they're safe behind Allied lines. Villers-Bocage, June 13, 1944, 08:45 hours. SS Obersturmführer Michael Wittmann peers through his optics at a British column stretching along the road below. 25 Cromwell tanks, half-tracks, Bren carriers. They're stopped, crews dismounted, thinking they're safe behind Allied lines. Wrong. Driver, forward. Tiger 007 growls down the slope. The 88mm swings left. Wittmann's gunner acquires target. The first round punches through a Cromwell's side armor at 800 meters. Flash, boom, ammunition detonates. Turret flips into the air like a coin. The British column erupts in chaos. Men scramble for cover. Vehicles try to turn in the narrow street. Too slow. Wittmann's crew reloads in 8 seconds. The next Cromwell dies, then another. Wittmann drives straight into Villers-Bocage, his Tiger, unstoppable, invincible, methodically destroying everything. 15 minutes, 14 tanks destroyed, 15 personnel carriers, 2 anti-tank guns. The Tiger's engine roars, smoke fills the streets, brass shell casings litter the fighting compartment, hot metal burning through gloves. The loader's arms scream, load, fire, eject, load. The gunner's eye never leaves the sight, traverse, acquire, fire. Then, crack. A 6-pounder round hits the gun mantlet. The Tiger's 88mm jams mid-traverse. Wittmann reverses, trying to disengage. Another hit. Another. The invincible tank, suddenly vulnerable. He abandons it, escapes on foot. But the legend is made. British commanders report a single Tiger caused devastation. Propaganda amplifies it. The Tiger becomes myth. What they don't report, Wittmann's Tiger was recovered, repaired. 2 months later, August 8, 1944, Operation Totalize. Wittmann leads 7 Tigers in a counterattack near Gaumesnil. British and Canadian tanks wait in ambush. A Sherman Firefly's 17-pounder box. Tiger 007 explodes. Wittmann and his crew die instantly. The Immortal tank commander, dead. Killed by a weapon specifically designed to answer one question. How do you kill a god?
The physics of armor penetration in 1943 come down to kinetic energy, mass times velocity squared. The Tiger's 88mm KWK-36L/56 fires a 10.2 kilogram Panzergranate 39 APC-BC round at 800 meters per second. At 1,000 meters, it punches through 112 millimeters of armor. At 2,000 meters, still effective against most Allied tanks. The gun barrel itself is 4,928 millimeters long, 56 calibers. The longer barrel gives expanding gases more time to accelerate the projectile. Higher velocity, flatter trajectory. The light's optics compensate for minimal drop, giving gunners confidence at extreme range. The armor profile is simple. Box construction, no sloping. Front, 100 millimeters. Sides, 80 millimeters. Top, just 25 millimeters. The lack of slope is a deliberate trade-off. Angling the hull manually to maximize effective thickness is easy with such thick base armor. German doctrine teaches crews the Malzeit Stellung. Position the hull at 45 degrees to the target. This increases effective frontal armor to 180 millimeters, side armor to 140 millimeters. No Allied gun in 1943 can penetrate that, not frontally. But here's the engineering problem. That armor weighs 56 tons. The Maybach HL-230 P45 engine, upgraded from the earlier HL-210 in May 1943, produces 700 horsepower. That's 12.5 horsepower per ton. A T-34 has 18 horsepower per ton. The Tiger is slow, 38 kilometers per hour on roads, 20 kilometers cross-country. Fuel consumption is catastrophic. Range, 100 kilometers on roads, 60 kilometers cross-country. Every Tiger needs constant logistical support. The interleaved road wheels create a maintenance nightmare. One damaged inner wheel requires removing 9 others. In winter, mud freezes solid between wheels overnight, immobilizing the tank until crews manually clear it with hammers and fire. Sources disagree on minor details. Some list weight as 54 tons, others 57 or 58. What's certain? This machine is over-engineered, expensive, and deadly when it works.
Inside a Tiger, the temperature is unbearable. Summer in Tunisia, the steel hull becomes an oven, 50 degrees Celsius. Crews stripped to undershirts, sweat pouring, breathing air thick with cordite fumes and engine exhaust. Vision ports offer narrow slits of sight. The commander's cupola, exposed, vulnerable, is the only real view. Private letters home reveal the psychological toll. One loader writes, "We are gods until we are not. Every time the hull shudders from a hit that doesn't penetrate, we laugh, but we know the next one might find the weak spot." The fear is mutual. Allied tankers develop Tiger terror, a documented psychological phenomenon. Crews abandon perfectly functional Shermans at the mere sight of a Tiger's distinctive boxy silhouette and long gun barrel. British commanders issue orders, "Do not panic, follow doctrine, flank and attack from the sides." But doctrine requires nerves of steel when the alternative is death at 2,000 meters. German Tiger crews aren't immune to fear either. They know their machine is slow. They know mechanical failures are constant. Driver training manuals, like the famous Tiger Feeble, written with darkly humorous illustrations, emphasize constant vigilance. Engine temperature, track tension, fuel consumption. One mistake immobilizes 56 tons of steel. The crew of Tiger 131, captured April 24, 1943 in Tunisia, abandons their tank after British 6-pounder rounds jam the turret. The tank is intact, the crew is unharmed, but they panic. The unit war diary records, crew members of Tiger 131 panic and abandon the tank after 2 harmless hits from a Churchill. The Germans consider it dishonorable, the British consider it an intelligence goldmine. Civilians caught in Tiger battles describe a sound like thunder, followed by silence, followed by screaming. Villages destroyed in crossfire, refugees fleeing from mechanical leviathans that care nothing for homes or families. War reduces everyone, commander and victim alike, to statistics. The Tiger kills 9,800 Allied tanks before production ends in August 1944. It cannot kill enough.
Tiger 131 arrives in England in autumn 1943. Engineers at the School of Tank Technology dismantle everything, measure, test, fire captured ammunition against captured armor. The results circulate to every Allied tank unit. The weak points: commander's cupola, high, exposed, lightly welded. Gun mantlet, a lucky shot can jam the turret. Tracks, always vulnerable. Vision ports, rear armor, 80 millimeters, penetrable. Top armor, just 25 millimeters, vulnerable to air attack. British Ordnance develops a solution, the 17-pounder anti-tank gun, a 76.2 millimeter weapon that fires a 17-pound projectile at higher velocity than the German 88 millimeters. On paper, it penetrates 163 millimeters of armor at 500 meters with APCBC ammunition. With APDS, armor-piercing discarding sabot, it penetrates 256 millimeters. The problem? The gun is massive, too large for standard tanks. Engineers propose mounting it in the Sherman. The American-built M4 Sherman is reliable, mass-produced, available in huge numbers, but the turret is too small for the 17-pounder's massive breech and recoil system. Lieutenant George Brighty and Major George Witheridge persist. They remove the co-driver, mount the radio outside in an armored bustle, turn the breech 90 degrees to load from the left, shorten the recoil mechanism. It works. May 31, 1944, 342 Sherman Fireflies delivered to 21st Army Group before D-Day. The 17-pounder can kill a Tiger from the front at 1,000 meters, sometimes farther. German tank commanders notice immediately. Orders circulate, destroy Fireflies first, identify by long barrel. Firefly crews paint false muzzle brakes on their guns to disguise them. Some paint their barrels to look shorter. The psychological warfare is mutual now. At Norrie-en-Bessin, June 1944, a single Firefly commanded by Lieutenant G.K. Henry destroys 5 Panthers with 6 shots. At Rauray, Sergeant Dring claims 4 German tanks. On August 8, 1944, near Galmesno, Sergeant Gordon's Firefly kills 3 Tigers in an ambush. Michael Whitman's among them. The Immortal tank has met its equal.
The final irony of the Tiger I is that it succeeded too well at the wrong thing. It dominated tank versus tank combat, achieving kill ratios that astounded both sides.
But World War II wasn't won by individual tank duels. It was won by logistics, production, and numbers. Germany built 1,347 Tigers total. America built 49,000 Shermans. The Soviets built 70,000 T-34s. By August 1944, when Tiger I production ceased in favor of the even more over-engineered Tiger II, the war was already lost. The Tigers deployed couldn't be everywhere. For every Sherman destroyed, 3 more took its place. For every mechanical breakdown, and there were thousands, another Tiger sat immobilized, waiting for spare parts that never came. The legacy is complex. Modern main battle tanks owe design lineage to the Tiger's concept: heavy armor, powerful gun, crew protection. The M1 Abrams, Leopard 2, Challenger 2, all descendants of the philosophy that firepower and protection matter. But they also learned the Tiger's lesson: reliability matters more than individual superiority. Today, 7 Tiger I tanks survive. Tiger 131 at the Bovington Tank Museum in England runs under its own power, the only operational Tiger I in the world. Tourists watch it growl across the demonstration ground, track links clanking, engine roaring. They feel the ground vibrate. They imagine the terror it inspired. But they also see the mechanical complexity, the maintenance nightmare, the fuel consumption, the over-engineering that made it a masterpiece and a failure simultaneously. The Tiger I was never truly immortal. German commanders believed it because they needed to believe it, because desperation demands myths, because when you're outnumbered and outproduced, you convince yourself that quality can overcome quantity. Sometimes it can't. Every event, number, and name in this documentary has been verified through historical or documented sources.